We all learn through failure, and there's absolutely no way to get to success, which is what I was saying earlier. Like there's a lot of failure on your way to success, and you can talk to your professional like tennis players. I think it was Andre Agassi that was saying that. I think he's missed something like 53% of the points that he attempted to make, or something like that.
Yeah.
Where even just the top elite performers out there, there's a lot of failure in it. So it's really when you step back and you see just in a chart just milestones of a person, and you miss what happened in between those 2 points, it looks like it's up and to the right, and holy crap, like this person is just amazing. But you miss all the valleys that happen in between those 2 points. And honestly, I think that is where the real value is, because that's where you learn the adaptability, that self-awareness, and more important, that's where you learn that these people are human, and it's not setting an impossible bar for everyone else out there, that if you don't follow that trajectory, that smooth out line that is just like up and to the right, then you're a failure.
Like hypergrowth is really just a series of failing forward.
100%. Yeah.
Is this thing on?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a special edition of the podcast. What you're about to hear is an interview I did with Marcos Torres of Huntress from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. That's right, we were invited down to Wall Street to shoot a series of podcasts with CFOs from pre-IPO companies. This was a bucket list interview and setting, and it did not disappoint. Marcos talks about the path less traveled. His first job out of school was working on computers, which led him to engineering. And along the way, he was a radio DJ in his home country of Venezuela. Marcos believes there are outsized prizes for people who take unique and sometimes more difficult routes, something that resonated with me personally. We touch on the quality of adaptability as a CFO and dissect Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. Another topic we go deep on is clarity of vision, what it means to think clearly, and a famous Abe Lincoln quote that I can't get out of my head. Old Abe. And finally, he makes an exciting announcement, the first fundraising announcement we've broken on the pod. All this and much, much more after a short word from our sponsors. Mercury knows your financial operations are complex. Founders and finance teams have to pull together different tools, reconcile transactions from different sources, and struggle to get accurate answers. With Mercury, you can simplify your operations with banking and software that power your critical financial workflows, all within the one thing every business needs, a bank account. And with new bill pay and accounting capabilities, you can pay bills faster, stay in control of company spend, and speed up reconciliation. Apply in minutes at Mercury.com and join over 200,000, ambitious startups that trust Mercury to provide the precision, control, and focus they need to transform their financial workflows so they can perform at their best. Mercury, the art of simplified finances. Mercury is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Choice Financial Group and Evolve Bank and Trust. Members FDIC. I'm getting good at that voice. Quick math, the less your business spends on operations, on multiple systems, on delivering your product or service, the more margin you have and the more money you keep. That's the goal, isn't it? But with higher expenses on materials, employees, distribution, and borrowing, everything costs more. Yesterday's price is not today's price. So to reduce costs and headaches, smart businesses are graduating to Netsuite by Oracle. Netsuite is the #1 cloud financial system, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one platform and one source of truth. With Netsuite, you reduce IT costs because Netsuite lives in the cloud with no hardware required. Access from anywhere. You cut the cost of maintaining multiple systems because you've got one unified business management suite. You improve efficiency by bringing all your major business processes into one platform, slashing manual tasks and errors. Over 37,000 companies, wow, that's a lot of customers, have already made the move. So do the math. See how you'll profit with NetSuite. And back, by popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for a few more weeks. Head to netsuite.com/metrics. That is netsuite.com/metrics. Ooh, yeah, you know your boy loves some metrics. That's netsuite.com/metrics. Please do it, guys. I really need this. Marcos, we're here at the New York Stock Exchange where finance careers are memorialized. It's kind of like the NBA Hall of Fame for guys like you and me.
It is.
But I'm going to start much earlier. What was your first job and how old are you?
So my first job, believe it or not, I was around 12, and
You were working at 12?
I was working at 12. This is back when Windows 95 came out, so you can kind of guess my age, just based off of that.
I'm doing the math.
What's interesting is, Windows 95 comes out, the world's completely different. Both my parents are attorneys, and what happened was all their friends, which are on the older side, just get a new computer. They're like, "What the hell is this thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a Mac. It doesn't look like Windows 3.1.
How do I plug it in?
Exactly. How do I plug it in? Like, okay, the thing is working. Like, where do I click? What do I do? So my first job was teaching attorneys on the older side in the mid 90s how to use their new computers with a complete new UI that Microsoft has shipped in, and then obviously that evolved into like, well, let me fix it for you, and then let me sell you the next thing you're going to buy. And that actually became a sort of like a business that I had on the side as I was in high school. So I was like always the computer kid that everyone called for help.
Yeah, everybody has that one friend growing up.
That's exactly.
I remember the one kid in my neighborhood who taught me how to download LimeWire at the time.
There you go, exactly. Or like how to install a modem. Like at the time, not every computer came with a modem. Like you wanted internet, you have to go buy a modem, put in the card. I mean, those are like the good old years when technology was so complex, so you actually needed somebody to come help you out because nothing was like fully set up for it.
I laugh because my kids will never know the sound of a dial tone.
You know what? It's crazy. The other thing that I've realized is there's a lot of kids these days that will never know the sound of a busy tone when you call.
Oh, you're right.
Because everyone's got voicemail. There's really no way you're never going to get a busy tone or even a dial tone.
Right. Even better, my kids will never have a landline. I don't think.
Exactly. So it's just fascinating how technology has moved, and I think a lot of that, especially for us in this age where like we kind of grew up with very rough technology into what it is today, just like you go buy a device and like everything is just ready to go. We've seen the evolution of that, and we've had to adapt to the multiple stages of that, because even downloading LimeWire, I mean, the fact that was. It wasn't legal, but it was kind of in a gray area where nobody cared.
That was hypothetical. Don't come after me.
Yeah, totally. Just like, I mean, I think statute of limitations, you're past that point now.
Yeah.
But I think just basically learning how those things like evolve, it really allows you to understand where things come from, because a lot of these things is just accumulation of what we used to be. Now it's better, and I think that just gives you that level of experience that you don't get if you're just showing up in the world today and you're like, it's always been like this.
I also heard though. You were a DJ at one point. I'm a podcast host, so you got to break this down for me.
So I was, and believe it or not, that was the next evolution of that first job.
Oh, they're connected?
They are absolutely connected, because my radio show was about technology. So the idea was technology wasn't overly accessible to people at the time. This is like 1999. So I had the chance to take the spot on the weekends, early in the morning. So, this wasn't like, a primetime show, but it was the idea of taking the space of a top 40 radio station back in Venezuela, where I'm from, and then combine good music, like the music that people are listening, and also making technology accessible. So it wasn't nerding out on a lot of technology stuff. It was more like making it simple enough for people to understand what was going on in the industry. So I did that for about 3 years, and it was a great experience. Like the two things that you'd never think go together, especially back in the day, but I was able to pull it off for a few years.
Was there music involved too?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So there was, you basically would do segments of about, 5-7 minutes. It wasn't, talk radio. So you had to, keep people engaged with some music. And so you're playing, I don't know, Britney Spears, and then you're talking about like, whatever was happening, even with hackers at the time, the big news that were hitting at the time. So you're basically combining those two, and that's your way to engage, the audience that, you think about it, on a Saturday or Sunday morning, you either have people that are severely hungover, trying to get home from the club. You have people that are early birds, and you're going for a run and just trying to understand your audience. It's the type of stuff that, I was producing the show and also one of the, talent on air, trying to understand your audience and figure out ways to get your numbers high, because in the end, you're getting a measure on your audience.
Right. You're trying to figure out your product and what they want to hear about. I mean, I do that too on this podcast. It helps me like hone my questions. Like there are some that are the same because I know people like them, but you kind of figure out like that's interesting to people, that's not.
Correct. Yeah, you have your core competency, and then you have the edge that is going to make you that much more attractive than your competition. Because if you think about it, same way people have 24 hours in the day, they have so many hours to listen to your podcast, or all those 300,000 more there are there. Same thing with the radio station, especially when you're live.
Yeah.
It's even more critical because it's like, it's in these 2 hours that I can either have your attention or my competitor is going to have it.
It's such a good point. This is a bit of a tangent, but
Of
somebody
course.
once said to me, like, oh, are you competing against other CFO podcasts? I'm like, no, I'm competing against Netflix.
You're
I'm
competing
competing against a
Yeah.
sports game. Like,
Yeah.
there's only so many hours in a day.
Exactly. You're competing against somebody that has a kid and they want to spend their time with their kid. Like, you're competing with literally life. It's, do I pay attention to what you want to say, and is it valuable enough for me to like not do that other thing?
Yeah.
Or do I want to listen to you?
And so I bring all this up, Marcos, because you've taken this path that I would say is less traveled. Do you think that there are outsized prizes for people that choose to take these unique paths?
100%. I think that is really where the real outsized outcomes are. It's really figuring out where are the inefficiencies in the market, right? We're finance people, we're here in the stock exchange, right? You think about this is the ultimate place where you would think that markets are super efficient, and they still are not.
Yeah.
Which tells you that even at the most optimized place, there are still things that are unknown, and having that competitive advantage of what is really going on, instead of seeing like the symptom of something, if you really understand that root cause, that really gets you to what are the inefficiencies, how do you take advantage of those, and that's the path less traveled.
And I think you get to the root causes by taking the difficult route sometimes.
Yeah, it's thinking. And I think that time to really think about things, to distill things down to what's essential to them, like getting to the core of it, it's not easy. I mean, it's there's a professor at UCLA, his name is Ramelt, and he wrote a fantastic book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy.
Okay.
And he'll tell you that a good strategy sounds easy, sounds pretty, sounds beautiful, but to get to it, it's extremely, extremely hard. So the problem is like people tend to think like, oh, look at it, it's so easy, it's so simple. Yeah, but you don't see all the work and time and effort that went into making it that easy, because you really need to think and distill things over time.
Yeah. We'd spoken to Adam Zawicki, the CFO of Rippling, and he made a funny comment. He's like, there are so many books written on strategy, but not many written on tactics.
Yes.
And I think that rings true, because at the core of any strategy are a bunch of really ugly tactics that you needed to rely upon to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, and I think that the beauty and the efficacy of a good strategy, it's how simple it is. The moment you make it overly complicated, because remember, it's the execution that really gets in the way. If you have this crazy strategy that people cannot understand why, then you're failing, because you're just basically following orders on the moment. You don't have people really following something they can repeat and understand and kind of become almost part of their identity.
Yeah.
It just mumbling words, and it makes absolutely no sense. You don't know what you're doing. You're just basically doing what you're told, and that's a terrible way to do business.
That segues me into my next topic here, and I gotta ask, what quality do you think separates the good CFOs from the great ones?
I think critical thinking is probably the biggest, and that ability, again, to take a problem. We look at problems usually in school, whether are technical problems, a math problem, or even a business school problem where there's a case, but it's all a toy model, right? And that's great to start building your instincts. So
It is.
nothing against that, but there's that, and then there's the real world.
Yeah, you're playing house.
Exactly. So once you get out there and you really start seeing all the dimensions and all the sides and all the stakeholders and all the complexities of a problem, it can be really overwhelming. And there's the biggest thing that most people ignore is uncertainty. Every time you make a decision, there is some uncertainty. Nobody ever has perfect information. Very rarely. If you do, definitely take advantage of that. And also make sure that it's legal, right? Like,
Trade on it.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Trade on it if you can, if it's legal. But my point here is, in most problems, you're going to have more things to think about than you can make a decision, or you can really quantify and decide what is the best, next step. So being able to do that uncertainty, and that's where I go back to like that critical thinking, right? Is the box really shaped this way? And really just getting down to like what is essential, what is the core of the problem.
Yeah.
That's usually what gets you to, basically make the best decision that you have at the time, and be forgiving, right? Like, you got to forgive yourself, because we will fail. We absolutely will fail, and the way to success. And at some point, you just have to be able to get out of that analysis paralysis if you get into that, and you just make a decision.
That's good. If I play it back, Do you feel like CFOs are always underwriting some level of uncertainty?
I think so. Absolutely. I think if you want to be that CFO at the edge of the business, you are. But I think the difference between the good and the great is the underwriting leaning towards action, not leaning,
Okay.
so bringing that forward energy instead of that stop energy. And I feel like a lot of times, I think there's different flavors of CFOs, some that are more on the conservative side, some that are more on the growth side. But the conservative side can always bring a little bit more like that stop energy, like let's stop, let's think, let's not take risk. And I think that's appropriate in certain industries and certain places, but when you're in a hyper-growth market, a hyper-growth company, you can't be the stop energy. You have to be a partner to that growth and basically bring that edge of like, how else can we do this? Following, sort of like the ethos of the CFO. I don't think there's something like that like there is for doctors.
Yeah.
But you are the steward of the company and the resources, but you also have to be aligned with like, this is a growth stage company. You have to be
Right, that's what we're here for.
Right, exactly. Otherwise, you can go to a company that's just a cash cow, and that's totally fine too. But it's basically you're a tool in a tool set, and it's the right tool for the right situation.
I love what you just said about being on the edge of the business. What does that mean?
So that means you're not just in your numbers.
Okay.
You gotta go beyond that. You really, I think that especially the view of the modern CFO is that of a business leader. It's not a finance leader. There's a lot of books that I've been reading about this. There's one called The Rockstar CFO, and it really covers, I think it's Jack McCullough from the CFO Leadership Council. He really talks about how the CFO went from just being like that, accounting leader into like just basically a business leader and all around looking at operations. And I think that really allows you to have that view of the entire business, but also understand what is the vision. I mean, really is that partner to the CEO to understand where is the real opportunity. CEOs tend to be those visionaries that are like, 10, 15 years out. And as the CFO, as that partner, you really have honestly that obligation to your company to take that and turn it into execution and allocation of resources. It's that next level of detail from the 50,000 to the 10,000, and ensuring that the people that are going to be executing at the 5,000 really understand the connection. It's being that glue in the entire business.
We'd spoken to Razak Jallo, the CFO of Flowcast, and he had said that the great CFOs are a catalyst or a conduit for the CEO's vision. So it's not saying no, it's like, let me hear what you want to do. I will help you get there. I will be the governor for growth on the business. I won't be the one saying, I'm going to slow you down. It's like, how do we get there?
Correct. Yeah, I think it very famously, there's that phrase out there, you don't want to be the CF no.
Yeah.
And I mean, in that
the sales guys like to call me that.
Yeah, exactly. Me too, right? Like sometimes.
Can I have that discount? No.
You tend to be saying no more than yes, but you also have to be, like I said, that steward of the company, and there is growth, but you don't want to do growth at all cost.
Yeah.
We've seen what happens with that, and I think especially we tend to be in a position where there's a lot of rules we need to follow. So at some point you need to balance that, the rules of the heart, boundaries of the problem that you cannot step out of. And then there's also like the opportunity that the market is giving you. So having that ability to balance those two, I think that's where the key happens.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Cash is king. As the CFO of a SaaS company, I know firsthand how important it is to maintain a healthy AR balance. If you can't effectively manage cash, you can't service debt, make payroll, or invest in growing your business. That's why I'm so excited to partner with the sponsor of today's episode, Maxio, the leading billing and financial operations platform for B2B SaaS. Maxio helps top SaaS companies like Chili Piper, Crunchbase, and Stack Overflow get cash in the door faster by automating collections and dunning. Gone are the days of manually chasing down invoices. Join the 2,500 plus subscription businesses using Maxio, formerly SaaS Optics and Chargeify, to eliminate revenue leakage and streamline order to cash. It's never been easier to get paid. Visit maxio.com/run the numbers to supercharge your financial operations in 2024. Not only does requesting a demo using the Run the Numbers link help support this podcast, ya boy, you also receive a 10% discount on your first year with Maxio. Woo! That's maxio.com/run the numbers. That's maxio.com/run Run the numbers. Ready to plan confidently, close faster, and report more accurately? Here's what sets Planful apart. Imagine purpose-built applications for every department, from FP&A to accounting, marketing to HR, all with built-in financial intelligence. It's easy to implement Planful in just weeks and with minimal IT involvement, so you can rapidly and seamlessly engage everyone across the business on your key financial progress. Best of all, Planful grows with you. Its unparalleled scalability ensures that no matter how fast your business expands, Planful can keep up. See why over 1,500 customers worldwide choose Planful as their flexible, user-friendly, end-to-end financial performance management platform. Oh yeah! Go to planful.com/metrics to see how you can reach peak financial performance with Planful. That's planful.com/metrics. Okay, serious question for all my accounting pros here today. Are you doing what you were hired to do? What I mean is, do you have time to actually be a business partner, or are you buried in tedious manual tasks just to get your journal entries prepared every month? I know how that feels. Leapfin's here to help with that. Leapfin is accounting automation software that automatically prepares and posts reliable journal entries. And that's just the beginning. High-growth businesses like Reddit, Canva, and SeatGeek choose Leapfin to eliminate manual tasks, accelerate month-end close, and enable accounting leaders like you to provide faster insights that will help your company grow. If you're battling messy transaction data from Stripe, Adyen, Shopify, Apple Pay, and other PSPs, and then battling again to get it all into Netsuite, go to leapfin.com to watch their short product intro video. And if you like what you see, request a 15-minute conversation to learn how accounting automation can help you and your team. Check out leapfin.com today. That's leap like jump, fin like shark. I just made that up. I hope they're okay with it. Leapfin.com. You'd hit me with Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, and you call out that the fittest is not always the strongest. What's the difference between those two?
Of course. So I think it's really adaptability what really gets you to survive. The natural selection concept is not the strongest. I mean, strength can certainly help you survive, but you also have to realize that the environment at some point can change enough that it doesn't matter how strong you are, you will break. On the personal side, I have a background of martial arts. I did martial arts growing up. I did judo for over a decade.
Nice.
And the first thing they teach you is to be like the willow. You have to be strong enough, but you also have to be able to bend, and you have to know when to bend and when to push back. Otherwise, eventually there's going to be an external force that is so strong that it's going to break you. Absolutely, no doubt. So to me, adaptability, that ability to know when to bend and when to push back, I mean, to me, that's the real key, and that's survival of the fittest.
I love that. I worked at a boxing gym throughout college, and I remember sometimes these big bouncers from the bars in Boston would come in, and they'd be like these 250-pound guys, and they'd get in the ring. And I remember I had this friend named Rico. He was like 135 pounds. He just bounced around them, throw jabs at them and everything. It's like the big biceps and muscles and being able to bench, 300 pounds didn't really help in that scenario.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Do you think adaptability and failure go hand in hand?
Absolutely. I mean, that is how you learn adaptability. I think a lot of these concepts sound, beautiful and audible, right? Like, you have to adapt, you have to have the self-awareness and all those things. But the true learning of adaptability is when you touch the hot oven or the hot stove.
Oh, say more.
That's how you learn how not to touch the hot stove, right? Like you got to touch it once, right? And ideally you touch it, only once or a couple of times in different ways, and you touch it just for a little second to be like, oh yeah, that's way too hot. I got to figure out a different way. But you have to touch it at some point. Like we all learn through failure, and there's absolutely no way to get to success, which is what I was saying earlier. Like there's a lot of failure on your way to success, and you can talk to your professional like tennis players. I think it was Andre Agassi that was saying that. I think he's missed something like 53% of the points that he attempted to make, or something like that. Where even just the top elite performers out there, there's a lot of failure in it. So it's really when you step back and you see just in a chart just milestones of a person, and you miss what happened in between those 2 points, it looks like it's up and to the right, and holy crap, like this person is just amazing. amazing, but you miss all the valleys that happen in between those 2 points. And honestly, I think that is where the real value is, because that's where you learn the adaptability, that self-awareness, and more important, that's where you learn that these people are human, and it's not setting an impossible bar for everyone else out there, that if you don't follow that trajectory, that smooth out line that is just like up and to the right, then you're a failure.
And me and you work in this ecosystem where it's all these hyper-growth companies that just on the surface seems like it's success after success after success. But I do think there's an element of like hyper-growth is really just a series of failing forward 100%. Constantly.
Yeah. And it's in that failing forward means you are taking risks. You are okay with that uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think that difference is, what do you do about that uncertainty? Do you lean forward and you fail fast and you adapt? Or is it, do you stay where you are, analysis paralysis, and you let everyone else just make that move? Obviously, you can talk about like first mover advantage, second mover advantage. I mean, there's a lot of theories around that, but the reality is, once you have a huge opportunity to capture, action is usually what gets you going, and you may be going down, the route that is not the most efficient one, but the only way to find out whether it is or not is just by failing and finding out more. That's more information, more feedback you have for the next attempt.
We had spoken with Bill Zarella on the pod. He was the former CFO of Fitbit, current CFO of ACV Auctions. And he was basically saying like hypergrowth isn't sexy when you're in the trenches.
It's really, it's a trench. I think that's a great definition of it, because there's a lot of things going on. And I think what is super valuable when you are in what seems to be chaos, and sometimes it can be chaos, is having a clear vision for you and for your team.
Say more about that.
Well, so I've always said that clarity of vision brings clarity of action.
Okay.
Once you know exactly what you need to do, it goes back to like that essential part of the problem. What is the problem that you're solving? What is that root cause? If you really find that core thing that you're trying to solve, everything else becomes clear, because there's a great book called The Essentialist, and it really gets you to that mindset where like you make that one decision that makes, I think, 10,000 decisions down the road.
Oh, that's a cool thought.
It's amazing. It's a great book. I mean, a lot of these words are not mine. I've just learned by reading some of these books, but they really get you to actually, the more you think, the less you have to worry about, because you're only thinking about the really important things, and everything else just becomes, okay, that may be something we need to worry about later, or that's not important, if you are clear on what are the really core things that should matter to you. And that's how you deal with uncertainty. You can never make uncertainty go away, but you can make sure that it just becomes noise on the side, and you're not necessarily worrying about things that are not important to you.
In order to have clarity of vision, Marcos, do you think you have to be good at saying no to things?
100%. It gets down to, on the execution side, it gets to like the Eisenhower quadrant, right? Like,
there we go.
What do you need to delegate? What do you need to, just say no to?
Was it like important versus urgent?
Important,
something
urgent,
like that?
Delegate, and I think ignore maybe the fourth quadrant. And really it's that. It really starts with saying no to a lot of things, which is hard, right? Especially certain personalities like type A, that you're like, I just want to get it all, and you're ambitious. But at some point, going back to like those external forces, there's so many things out there for you to do that you will break. You and everyone else, by the way.
Right.
It's just that realization that you, me, and like I think time is the most democratic thing we have, because we all have 24 hours in the day. It's what you do with that.
We had spoken to Dave Klein, who's a really well-known management coach. He worked at Bridgewater Associates with Ray Dalio for a number of years. And he made this reference that a lot of times at hyper-growth companies, you'll have people who are coming around and they're putting monkeys on your back.
Yep.
And so what they're doing is they're giving you things to do, and you just keep accepting them.
Yes.
But what you have to do is actually give them back to people in order to move the company forward.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think part of that is, it's also even just, one is, don't let people put too many monkeys on your back. Sometimes you got to take them, right? Like there's so many things that you can't always be 100% perfect. But the other part is, if you bring a monkey to me and I'm like, why are we even dealing with this monkey?
There we go.
You know what? It shouldn't be my monkey, it shouldn't be your monkey. That monkey needs to go, right? Like whatever it is, like why are we even talking about this monkey? Or maybe we're talking about monkeys. You brought a parrot. Like why do we have parrots? This is a monkeys, And I think even just on the industry side, one of the things that I tell about people, and this is one of the most used business school cases, but still so core to just strategy and execution, is Coca-Cola. I mean, if you think about Coca-Cola, they don't make their own cans. They don't do their own distribution. They literally just make the concentrate and do the marketing. Everything else, they have somebody else very close to them, very associated with them. They don't make cans. They don't make bottles. They don't bottle the thing. They just outsource the whole thing because they know they're good at doing the R&D of these products and creating the concentrate and doing sales and marketing. So I feel a lot of businesses tend to just stray away from their main path because there's something that is somewhat tangential to you that could be useful. And sometimes there's opportunity to do those type of things, but trust me, if Coca-Cola can't do can manufacturing better than an actual can manufacturer, I kind of doubt that you as a startup can go do 25 different things in a space that is so busy.
Well, it happens to both people in their careers and for startups that when you're doing something right, or you become well known for it, you get all these other opportunities that people bring you.
Yes.
But if you say yes to those, then you're not making the main thing anymore, and that's what got you there in the first place, and it starts to actually detract from it.
Correct. Yeah, it's that dilution effect, right? It's like it's part of your identity, and there is perfect examples where you want to pivot, where you want to change your identity, but I think that goes back to the clarity of vision brings the clarity of action.
Yep.
If you are A and you want to turn into B, then what matters to you now that didn't matter before, and vice versa? What mattered to you before that should not matter to you right now? But it has to be a conscious decision. It can't just be like, oh, I just stumbled on this thing and now, I used to be A and now I'm B. And again, it's really easy to go from something that is very adjacent to something else versus, oh my God, like I'm completely just switching paths, right?
Success, you can drown in it, and it sounds funny to say that, but you get these opportunities that end up just throwing you off track.
That's exactly right. And I think that I go back to like that clarity of vision. What do you want to do? And I have people reaching out and asking for advice, and usually the hardest question is the first question, which kind of sucks, but it's what do you want to do? What is your goal? What problem are you trying to solve?
Do most people, they can't answer that clearly?
Yeah, they can't. And what's interesting is it goes from that to almost a therapy session. What's important to you? What do you want to do with your time? Like, if you had, I don't know, a month to live, what would you want people to remember you from? And like those type of things. It's interesting that there's a lot of successful people that partially have stumbled upon success without even really knowing what they want to do, and that may be the path that is most traveled, and that is a safe way to do things. I mean, I think both alternatives are good, but the reality is, I always go back to like what is essential, what is that core problem you're trying to solve personally as a business, and sticking to that. That's what really makes those great outsized outcomes so pervasive in certain industries, and it really just comes from having that clarity.
It does. And you'd hit me with an amazing quote. I haven't heard this one since like elementary school. Abe Lincoln once said, if you give me an hour to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 45 minutes sharpening my axe. Can you give me a real life tactical example of a time that you sharpened your axe before digging in?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can give you probably 3 of those, and they're about the same. At Huntress, we've always been really focused on protecting small and medium businesses and small enterprises that are just below the cybersecurity poverty line. And our tagline has been cybersecurity for the 99%. Mm-hmm. But as any startup that was very, very small, almost 5 years ago when I joined, we needed capital, and we were burning cash more than we were bringing in. So you need to bring investment. And part of that planning was always start racing the next round as soon as you close the last round. So as soon as we close the A, we started racing the B. And start racing the B is like, we're not asking for money right away, but you start thinking, what is the next step? Is that living in the future? What are the things that I'm going to need? So when I get the call, I'm not thinking about what do I have to do. I already have the plan.
Right.
And so, understanding what are the next stage of investors want to hear about a business that has been successful and all the things that we pitch in the Series A. Similarly with the B and the C, just being ahead of that. I've always been also a huge fan of, digging the well before you're thirsty. It's just that leaving the future. And I think what happens in hyper growth environments as well is you worry about drowning today, so you stop thinking about what's going to, how you're going to drown tomorrow. So having that ability to think about today and tomorrow and start moving that horizon of where you're thinking about the future in terms of days and then weeks and then months and then ideally years, because as you grow, things stabilize a little bit more in the expectation of you being able to predict the future become much, much bigger. So to me, it's really about preparation. We've always, my team, we've always talked about preparation and opportunity are the formula to success.
That's good. Marcos, don't you need to make decisions and just get stuff done with 80% of the info you wish you had? How do you have clarity of vision on something, but also deal with the ambiguity around it?
Sure. I mean, it's all the time. Every decision you're making it with imperfect information. I think just by definition, understanding that is, you decided to, put a jacket this morning and you didn't know if that was going to be the ideal jacket, but you went for that.
I was sweating on the walk here.
There you go. Exactly.
I'm still sweating now. You probably can't see it.
So, and I think that's part of that. Like you didn't know all those things that were going to happen. You had imperfect information, but you decided to go with that. And it's the ability to adapt to what happens after you make that decision. That's the real value. Now, there is something important about it, which is you thought, hey, I need a jacket to get into the studio. They're not going to let me in. So if you fail at the point of if you're getting dressed, you need a jacket, that's a bigger problem. So knowing that you need one, that's probably the core of the problem.
Right.
So that's why I always go back to what is the most important thing and what are the things that you're managing, and going in eyes wide open, understanding what are the things that you don't know, what are the things that can still, hurt you or kill you down the road. You have to have that broad mindset. And even when I think about scenario planning, which is a lot that you start doing when we start planning long term, is when you do scenario planning, you don't pick the scenario you like the most or the one you think is the most likely and you just go with that. You technically need to look for different scenarios that are widely and radically different, and you're not going to pick one. You're really going to do the exercise to see what's
That's the
out
point,
there.
to test the other ones.
Exactly, and know what are the things that really matter to you. And it part of it is the exercise of being extremely creative and just get out there. I mean, the scenario that everyone can think about, that's the one that is less likely to kill you. It's the one that nobody thought about because nobody stopped and said, what is this radical thing that could happen that could completely disrupt an industry, a situation? And it's being that just teeny tiny paranoid, but you're able to rein it in and not just go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Or you do, but you go down the rabbit hole with the rope, right? There's a way for pull you out and be okay, that didn't happen. You're doing that mental
But I thought
exercise.
about it.
Exactly, and I think that's why time to think is the most important thing as a business leader. Honestly, just as an individual, if you're really trying to make something out of your life that's worth for you, a story to tell, is spend the time to think. And I think we're in a society and an environment where you just got to go.
Yeah.
That stop and think, and it doesn't have to be you don't spend 8 hours thinking about something, but 10 minutes, 10 minutes with your phone away without looking at the screen, just with the problem in front of you, it can feel like hours. And actually the results of that can bring you that type of insight that you don't get when you just going.
Yeah, you don't get a 10x outcome from answering emails.
Exactly right.
Marcos, I'm going to take you into what we call our long ass lightning round. So the first question I ask is, you're a successful guy, but you got to give me something you've screwed up on the job. It could be this job or anywhere else in your career.
Yeah, totally. Hiring the wrong person at the wrong time. And this is not a dig on people necessarily.
Did you overhire, underhire?
I've probably done it all. Probably overhire, probably underhire,
Yep.
probably just hire the wrong person overall. And sometimes it's not. It's the person and timing for the company what we needed wasn't a good match. And sometimes the person was just not a good match for the company regardless of the stage. And that hurts. That hurts because the time you put into bringing in that person, ramping them up, giving them a fair chance to succeed, seeing that didn't happen, what that does to the organization, it's not just a hiring decision. I mean, you talk about it in terms of the point where you hire the person, you let them go, but everything that happens there, you're also pulling a person out of another job where they probably had stability. So to me, that's actually pretty big.
That's a good point. That's a big knock on.
Exactly. It's not just what happened to me and my team and my company. It's also what happened to that person. That can be probably even more disruptive to their life. So just being aware of those two sides, again, that goes back to like, I take very seriously when I decide, I need somebody in my team, and are they going to be really the right choice for their lives and for our company.
That's really thoughtful. I think we actually need more of that because people don't think about the knock-on effects. It's like a butterfly flaps its wings and a lot of things change.
Exactly. Think about second, third level degree of consequences for this thing. I mean, this person may have a family. They may be the main bread winner for that family. There may be other people depending on them that you don't even get to see in their close friends. Like, you don't know how many things are on that end. So being conscious that if you're taking that risk, you're taking that risk for yourself, but you're also taking that risk for others and a lot of things that they may not even know. So being super thoughtful about that, to me, that's key. And again, I learned touching the hot stove.
If you could tell your younger self something knowing what you know today, what would you tell them?
That's going to be okay. That you're going to be able to figure it out.
It's funny, a lot of successful people say that. And I always wonder, we've gotten that answer a lot on this podcast, and I like it because I have to tell myself that pretty often.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, most of the people are pretty successful that we talk to. I wonder if it's because they're like, okay, I figured out some of it.
Yeah, and it's just that. It's just building that confidence. You may have that gut feeling that you can, but the reality is you need, and you owe it to yourself having that ability to be like, yes, I've figured it out before. I will be able to figure it out again.
Again, yeah.
Exactly. And I feel that's the thing. It's when the level of uncertainty is so big that you have to just be comfortable with it, because again, you're not going to get any better than that. So you got to go. Sometimes you're 20% sure, sometimes you're 80% sure.
Yeah.
And again, it's when you have a lot of time to figure out that big 80% of uncertainty, that's when you got to be kind to yourself and be like, look, this is the best you're going to do on being comfortable. Sometimes you got to take that big step.
Yeah. I write a newsletter, and people always ask me, like, aren't you nervous that you'll like run out of stuff to talk about? I'm like, I come up with it every week, so like I'll come up with it again. But if you think about anything, whether it's in your career or within your business, of like, what do I not know today? What have I not done yet? And what am I not prepared for? Then like, I don't know, you just got to continually figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the one thing for me, it's always, I've tried not to live and let the fear of anything control my life.
Or the anticipation of
exactly.
it. Right.
I mean, you can feel it. It's not don't feel it. Like, that's the thing. There's a difference between you feel it, you process it, you move forward, versus you either pretend you're not feeling it, but definitely it is
That's
there.
bad too.
Yeah. Or you feel it and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do anything because I'm paralyzed by it. So again, it's not what happens, because a lot of these things are externalities. It's how do you react to it? And I think it's a lot more about mindset than this decision you made here, that decision you made there. What is your mindset going into this? And again, that's why I think investing in yourself personally, it's the best you can do for yourself and also for whoever you end up working with.
That's great. Can you walk us through your finance software stack? What tools do you use today to get the job done?
Sure. So I made the early decision thinking about future. That's actually a conversation that I had with the Huntress founders very early on we wanted to build something big. And I'm telling you, at this time, we were maybe $4 million of ARR. And they were like, but this could be really big, and I really bought into the vision. So the good thing is that we were aligned. I went to Netsuite when we were under $10 million of ARR.
Wow, nice.
Which is super rare.
Yeah.
So we did that. We're now using Flowcast, as you mentioned, their CFO, for all the closing. We use Vereto as an FP&A and forecasting tool.
I know the
as well.
founders there. They're awesome.
Lali, amazing, and Kat as well. well. I mean, they're just building something completely different. I'm really, really excited about what they're doing out there. And then, as every company, we use a lot of spreadsheets here and there. But I would say that's mostly the big part of it. We do a lot of analytics on using Sigma and
I love
Snowflake.
Sigma and Snowflake, yep.
And a lot of the good things, like it really gets you out of the game of spreadsheets, and it gets you really into that data science world. And we've actually started hiring those folks as well, because we have so much data from our customers, from our go-to-market motion, from our revenue team, that it's really interesting to just put all those together and have a 360 view of your customer. What is those multiple variable regressions, and what are the things that get you to increase your conversion rates, increase your close rates, increase your expansion rates, and what affects net dollar retention. I mean, that's where as an engineer, I really start sometimes forgetting about the finance and just getting more into okay, how do we make this thing go faster? Because that is the definition of hypergrowth.
I love how you touched on BI from the standpoint of marrying your production data with your financial data with your sales data. That's kind of the holy grail.
Yeah, exactly. And even just we've looked at how security incidents during trials influence close rates, and whether the severity of security incidents really affect that or not. It's really amazing, especially when you put real data people. I'm a data nerd because I understand and love it, but don't ask me to do it. I can't, but I understand the concept. And it's just fascinating the type of things you can do digging on your own data, and talk about a competitive advantage and a core competency, right? We have this is data that does not exist anywhere else in the world. We get the chance to mine that data and use it to serve our customers better, and also let the company go faster.
It's a secret sauce right there.
It's a secret sauce.
What's the craziest thing you've ever had someone try to expense?
Oh, God. I had a team at a previous company asked to expense against the customer, not even the company, a cooking class.
Ooh.
Because that was going to be a bonding experience for the team, so the customer will benefit from that. So should we do that? And
no free lunches.
No free, and you know what? I think the best part is I didn't even answer. It was just, this was in person, so I just probably gave a look. I'm sure I gave a look. So what I said was, do you want to ask the question again, listen to yourself, and tell me if you need an answer? That was it. But yes, I've had those.
It's a good one.
I think we'll have.
Marcos, a birdie told me that Huntress has an exciting announcement. Is that right?
Yes. Today is a very exciting day for us. We're announcing our Series D, following a Series C that we did last year, but this is an inflection point for Huntress. We just raised $150 million from Kleiner Perkins, Meritech Capital, and Sapphire Ventures. It actually puts us at the 1.55 billion valuation. So as of today, we are the latest and greatest cybersecurity unicorn. And for all the beauty of those numbers, it's really just the beginning of the next stage of Huntress. We've been going for the last 18 months from a single product, single region, single persona or ICP that we were transacting with, into multi-product. We have 3 products now, about to go 4 in the summer. We have multiple regions now, and this is just the beginning of a multi-product platform to protect the small enterprise and below out there, with a tremendous TAM. If you look at the GDP of the United States, it's about 50% coming from SMBs. So this is just the beginning, and it's super exciting news because there's so many more things coming up for the company.
You. Yeah, congrats.
Super exciting. I mean,
this is a day of first. We're doing a podcast at the New York Stock Exchange. We're breaking fundraising announcements.
There you go.
Look at this.
Breaking news. I mean, you can start competing with other podcasts out there. Just getting
we're coming for you, TechCrunch. Marcos, I can't thank you enough for coming down here. This has been an awesome experience, and congrats on all the success so far, and I wish you luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been an amazing experience, and hopefully we can make it happen again.
Absolutely.
Run the Numbers is a mostly LLC production. Yelling an intro by Fat Joe. Artwork by some AI thingamajig. Podcast and video editing is done by Cleancast at cleancast.io. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of me, a guy who feeds his dog too much ice cream and has a history of net operating losses, LOL. If you like this podcast, please hit subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And also check out mostlymetrics.com. That's my newsletter where I explore business models and financial metrics. Thanks for riding with me. Share this with your friends. Peace.